Last time we talked about four important types of data in Python. What are they? Do you still remember? List, tuples, sets, dictionaries, right? So if I want to include the group of data as a list, which symbols should I use? Which symbols? List. I want to create a list. Square brackets, yes. What is the key feature of a list? They are ordered, right? They can be changed, right? Ordered means you can use the position of an element to access to the value of that element, right? Yes. Unordered, obviously, you cannot use position, right? What is the key feature of a tuple? If I want to create a tuple, which symbols should I use to create a tuple? Parentheses, very good. What about a set? Curly braces. What about the dictionary? Curly braces. But the dictionary, what is the difference between a dictionary and a set is, yes, in dictionary you have a key and a value. Yes. So you have a key value pairs. Yes, very good. Very good. Uh, can I allow duplicates if I use a set? Can I allow duplicates? No, right? Set cannot allow duplicate. What about list? Yes, we can. What about tuple? Yes, we can, right? Tuple can. Yeah, right. So in practice, we frequently use list a lot. Yeah, because it's ordered, it has multiple key features, right? Yes. Sometimes we will use dictionaries too. Yeah. But you have to know all four types of data. Yeah. So today we'll continue our study in Python. We'll talk about the if-else structure. Sometimes you need to evaluate some condition. If the condition is met, you execute some code, right? We will use if, else if, and else statement to evaluate. So for example, if I want to compare whether two variables are equal, not equal, greater than, less than, and then if they met certain conditions, we will execute some code. We'll be using if statement. In this case, it's very easy to understand. Pay attention to two parts. The first one is after the if statement, you must close this statement by a colon sign. Yes, very good. Another point you need to pay attention to is the indent, right? If you want the code that below if statement belong to the if statement, meaning that you only execute the code after if statement, you must add an indent. Usually, you add four spaces. Four spaces. This is called an indent. That means the print line belongs to the if statement. The print line will only be executed if the condition of the if statement is met. Yes. Yeah. Very good. Python is a very powerful programming language. You can use Python to do AI, data analysis, right? All kinds. Massive. Agreed. It's like a keep expanding universe, right? We don't know the specific functionality of Python, but no matter what you do, they all goes back to the fundamentals of Python programming. So if you study other courses in the future, for example, if you study machine learning, your professors could start from the fundamental first and then move to the machine learning part, right? No matter what you do, you need to be very familiar to the Python fundamentals. Always remember these fundamental rules. Yeah. It's very powerful, but if you don't know the fundamentals, it can do nothing for you. So that's why we want to focus on the fundamental parts. I want everyone to be familiar to all the programming rules. We talk about the indent. Okay. So do you think this code will run? Why not? Because you don't have the indent before print. Exactly. You are implying that the print function will only be executed if the if statement is met, right? But you don't have the indent to show that print belongs to the if statement. That's why if you don't add the indent before print function, you get an error. You can try it at home, right? Another example, you have multiple print lines, right? All of them are at the same level indent. What does this mean? That means these three prints will be executed one by one if the condition is met. Yes. All three belong to the if statement, right? Okay, I have a question for everyone. You good? If yes, I have a question. What if I add an indent before the second print line? What will I see? You mean I will see an error message? The first one, okay. What do you think? Nothing will change? No, you will see error message, right? Nothing. Why? Because the second print line does not belong to the first print line. There's no belonging relationship between the print functions, right? So yes, in Python, you need to add an indent sometimes, but do not just randomly add indent. If it doesn't make sense, you will see an error message, right? What you mean is the three print function all belong to the if statement. So there's no necessity to add an indent before the second print line, right? Don't add the indent for fun. It must make sense. Must make sense. Very good. Remember indent. Okay, this example shows you another example. You can create a variable that holds true value. If true, that means this if statement is condition is met, right? It will execute welcome back, this print function. Let's do some exercise. I keep telling you what if statement can do for you, right? What it can do. A condition result in true or false, met or not met. Yes, very good. What will happen if the condition in if statement is false? Will be skipped. Yes, very good. What is required for proper if statement syntax in Python? Do we need curly brackets? No, no. Do we need a parentheses around the condition? What this option means is, okay, so you remember we compared B greater than A in other programming languages, other, right? Like Java, like R or something. They will add parentheses around the condition. They will do like if parentheses B greater than A. They will do that. right? But we don't do that in Python. We just compare, right? I have another question by the way. What if I have a multiple conditions? Do you remember? Let's say I have a C equals to 100. I want to compare whether or not C is greater than B. Very good. Very good. We learned and, right? What is the key feature of an and operator? Both comparisons must be true in order to generate the final true. If you have any false, the final comparison will be false, right? This works. This works, right? Oh, by the way, some classmates asked me a very good question in prior classes. What if I add a space between C greater than sign and B? It doesn't influence. Doesn't, it's fine, right? It's fine. This is not considered an indent. Yeah. An indent, yeah, to show the belonging relationship. Yes, agreed. Yeah. So what is the result? If B greater than A and C greater than B, I want to print, right? Don't forget indent. Almost made that mistake. But fortunately, I add the indent, right? So what is the result? Who said nothing? Yeah. Yes. Nothing, right? Very good. Yes. What's your name? Amar? You are like the sleeping great. Right? You have been quiet for the entire semester, and then eventually you answered a very interesting question. Finally, you wake up. It, yeah, Amara is right because we have a false comparison, right? So if we use and, even though the first one is true, but because the second comparison is false, so the final comparison is a false. And the print line will only execute if the comparison is a true, but we have a false. So the print line will not be executed. Yes. That's why we see nothing. Yes. Very good, Amar. Very good. Yeah. Congratulations, you finally wake up. Very good. Very good. So we must have an indent, right, in the code. Print hello world if A is greater than B. If A greater than B, colon, right? Yes, very good. Print hello world if A is not equal to B. If not, exclamation, equal sign, very good. Very good. Complete the code block. Print yes if 5 is greater than 2. Yes, indent, right? Very good. Usually you can use four spaces to represent the indent. Or if you want to be quick, you can press the tab key on your keyboard to create an indent, a series of white spaces, or just four spaces. Print yes, right? Very good. Okay.
So I have a very quick question.
Yes.
So does the amount of space after like with the indentation
Ah.
actually matter?
Doesn't matter. You can like use two spaces, four spaces, that's fine. Yeah. To show the indent. Good question. Okay. elif, elif. If you use if, as you can see, you only consider the one condition, right? But what if you want to consider two or more conditions? You can keep adding elif into the evaluation. Right, different conditions. Yeah, elif. Pay attention that after elif, you also use a colon sign, right? This is easy to understand. So let's move to else. Elif has a practice, has an exercise. We will come back to this exercise after we talk about else, else. So sometimes you will consider multiple comparisons, but you may not consider all possible comparisons, right? In addition to the comparison you have considered, you can use else to represent all other conditions you did not consider. Notice that you need to add indent after elif and else. Also notice that you need to add a colon sign, even though after else you have no condition right down, right? Remember this too. So let's do some exercise. What does the else statement execute? Second one, yeah, very good. Can you have a else statement without elif? Yes, yes, right? Because else represents anything you don't consider. Yes, very good. Where must the else statement be placed? Two, right? Number two. Yes, very good. What will be the result of the following code? Welcome, right? Because uh, if statement is not met, x is not greater than y. That's why you will execute the else statement. Make sure you are familiar to all of these kind of rules, programming rules, because Python is a big, very powerful programming language. Most likely, if you apply for a job, the company expect you to be very proficient in Python, very proficient. R is another big language. They also expect you to know R. Yeah. Java used to be very popular, but Java is kind of replaced by Python and R at this moment. Yeah. So, what is business analytics? In in my opinion, of course, you need to study modeling class, mathematics class, right? In my opinion, if you want to show your professionalism in business analytics, you need to study three things. Three things. SQL, SQL, Python, and R. Yes. Yes, you will study statistics, optimization, but you will implement all of these models in these three things. SQL, Python, and R. We have a summer vacation coming up very soon, right? If you have nothing to do during summer vacation, make sure you study the three things. Yeah. Before we don't have Python or R. You know what people do? They use the SQL to perform data analysis. It's very complex, very complex. Yeah. Now we have Python and R. It's like the new generation of programming language. So we don't use SQL to, yeah, but we still use SQL to pull data, to collect data. So these three things are very, very important. I'm not talking about fundamentals. I'm talking about application level. Application level. Yeah. If you are given a big data set from the start, how you get data by using SQL to the end, how you use Python to visualize, that's very important. Yes, you are given other software like Power BI, Tableau. Those are add-ons. Those are like you go to a very fancy dinner, icing on top of the cake. Yes, agreed. Yeah, but you will not be satisfied if you don't have a steak in a fancy dinner. And SQL, Python, and R are the steak for your fancy dinner. Yeah. Like Power BI, Tableau are just like appetizers. Yeah. But these three things are very important. Same thing to MBA student. We have MBA student right here. Uh, they are also important to you. MBA. Right. Do you know why these three things are important? Because they are free. I'm not joking, by the way. Companies, no matter how big, how small, all companies need data analysis. But not every company can afford paid software like Power BI or Tableau. Those software are not free. You have to pay for them. But Python, SQL are open source, free. Yeah. Do you know uh, a Chinese company called DeepSeek? DeepSeek was opened last spring, like February 2025, right? When DeepSeek was available last year, February 2025, NVIDIA stock dropped significantly. If you look back in the stock market, the availability of DeepSeek dropped the entire US stock market. Why? Why? Because DeepSeek is open source, is free to use. Anything free. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know, lots of self-driving car companies are in demand, right? Like Tesla, they are developing like self-driving system, AI system. You know which company BMW is collaborating with to develop a self-driving system? DeepSeek. DeepSeek, not OpenAI. Open, what is ridiculous is OpenAI is called open, but OpenAI is not open source.
Yeah.
DeepSeek is. It's charging, yeah. OpenAI charges like if you a car company want to develop a self-driving system, OpenAI will charge you. DeepSeek will also charge you. However, the source code is open. That's a different. It's like you collaborate with Microsoft. Microsoft is in charge of the source code. You cannot change it. without agreement with from Microsoft. But if you collaborate with Linux, DeepSeek, this kind of open source architecture, you can customize your source code. Yes. That's why I said SQL, Python, and R are very important. Okay. Print yes if A is equal to B. Otherwise, no. So I will help everyone to complete the if statement part, right? And then, very good. Yeah. Never forget this colon sign. Yeah, very good. Very good. Everybody understand it? Let's go to while loop. We talked about while loop last time, right? For loop, while loop. It will list each of the elements in a list, tuple, right, set, and dictionary one by one. This is the purpose of a while loop. Here, I want to introduce two new keywords. One is called a continue, another one is called a break. So when you perform while loop or for loop, you can break the current loop. If you want to completely stop the current loop, you use break. If you just want to jump out of the current loop, you use continue. Yes. Let's take a look. Okay. So I want to list each number as long as I is less than 6, right? And I start the loop from I equals to 1. So basically I should have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Because my condition of the while loop is I is less than 6. Doesn't include 6. That's why I should have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? But what if I want to stop the loop process if I is equal to 3? I can use this. So I still counting I, but if I is changed to 3, is equal to 3, I'm going to do break. Notice that I have an indent before break. This means break belongs to the if statement. Break will only be executed if I is equal to 3. Also notice that I have nothing after break. No colon, no semicolon, nothing. Do not be considerate at this part, right? I know some people who studied other program language, they want to add a semicolon. Do not be that considerate. We have nothing after break, right? Same thing applied to continue. Nothing after continue. Later, you will also study another keyword called return. Nothing after return, right? Yeah. We only add a colon sign after if statement, for loop, and a while loop. Very good. So what should you see after you execute this code? As I said, break will completely stop the loop. So you should say 1 and 2, right? Because if I equals to 3, you will not execute print. You will completely stop it. That's why you only say 1, 2. Let's take a look. You see? 1, 2, 3. Let me see. Oh, it will print. Yes. Why 1, 2, 3? Yes. Yes, it will print first. Yes. Very good. Yeah. I remember if break is before print. Yes. I should say 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Because I print the value first. So it doesn't matter if I want to stop the loop or not before the if condition is met. Yeah. So I should see 1, 2, and 3. After I print 3, because I is equal to 3, I will stop the loop. Yes, very good. Continue. Continue will jump out of the current loop, but it will still process the next value, right? For example, here, if I equals to 3, I will stop the loop process. I will stop it. So I'm not going to print 3, but I'm going to change I to 4, and then I print 4. So you should see 1, 2, 4, 5. Yes. Oh, 4, 5, 6, right? Because I equal less than, yeah, yeah. It's not I equals to 1, right? I equals to 0 now. Yes. But 3 does not print. At the end of the while loop, you can add an else statement. That means if you complete the while loop, you want to print something else, additional. You can add the else statement, right? So that's why after you print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the while loop is stopped. And then you want to print another message, I is no longer less than 6. You can add this additional by using else. Note that there is no indent before else, but we have a colon sign after else. Let's do some exercise. Break, right? Yes. As long as I is less than 6, so while colon. We should be very familiar to this already, right? Stop the loop if I is 3. Just to stop the loop if I equals to 3. It doesn't mean you completely stop the loop, the entire loop. So you use continue. Oh, break. Yeah. Jump directly to the next iteration, next loop. Continue. Good. Print a message once condition is false. What should I do? Else. Yes, very good. Don't forget colon sign. Very good. When we talk about a while loop, we have to think about a for loop. They are the same family. Oh, by the way, this W3 school also has some code challenge. So they will give you a task to do, but you have to write your own code completely. That's a good exercise. So everyone can do it at home. For loop is similar to while loop. This is what we did last time, right? We create a list variable and then use for loop to list each element of the list variable. Yes, we can use for loop. We can also use a break and a continue if you want to stop the loop. Let's do some exercise. What will be the result if I execute this code? 0, 1, 2. Yes. Yeah. Because we start counting from 0. Yes. Loop through the item in fruits list. For X in, right? The keyword is in. In is like search the list variable. If we find it, we print it. Directly to the next item. Very good. Use a range function to loop through a code set 6 times. I want to use 5. Oh, no. Let's see. Oh, 6. 6. Because, yeah, the upper limit will not be count. Yes. Should be 6. Because 6 times, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 times. So the upper limit should be 6. Yeah. Exit the loop when X is banana. Break. Very good. We complete another task. You always feel accomplished when you use W3 School. And I said SQL, Python, and R are important, right? W3 School offers you all the free tutorial. I'm not promoting this website, but I'm just letting you know that during summer vacation or during break, if you want to learn something else, you can always study SQL, Python, and R, right? If you move around, you will find R somewhere, right? Yeah, all of these languages. Go, uh, Go is from Google. Yeah, it's for AI development, right? So if you are interested, take a look at Go. If you are interested in AI, yeah, all kinds for free. SAS, right? Swift. If you are interested in iPhone app development, you can study Swift. Very complete, very good, very interactive website. Okay, now let's talk about the last important topic, Python functions. Okay, so at the beginning of this Python training session, I remember I told everyone that every programming language consists of 2 parts. What are they? Variables and functions. Yes, variables and functions. We have been talking about variables so far, right? Functions. What is a function? It's a group of programming code that can provide services, calculation, image processing functions to users. In which software we have been using function a lot? Excel, right? In Excel, we use a lot of functions. For example, if we want to calculate the total of certain cells, sum function, right? We use sum function. We can do equals to sum parentheses and then select the ranges. We can immediately calculate the total of the 3 cells. So have you wondered why when we use this total function, we have to type in SUM? Because this is how it's defined when this function is developed by Microsoft. But we cannot change it. Why? Because I just told you, Microsoft is closed source, meaning that you cannot change, create your own function. You must follow what Microsoft gives you, right? But now we are using Python, which is open source. We can develop our own function, which can achieve the same service. Now we need to know how to create our own function in Python. There are some general requirements. For example, if you want to create your own function in Python, you must start your development by def. This is the keyword. Def means define, define. Yeah, but you don't write down define, you write down def. And then your function name. So in Excel example, we use sum, right? But now we want to develop our own function. That's why you can use any name as long as it doesn't violate the Python rules. Yeah, any name. And then you have parentheses. Why do you need a parentheses? It can accept the user's input, right? In Excel example, our input will be the sales, right? That's why you have to add a parentheses after the function name. And then colon sign, colon sign. Sometimes you don't always ask the user to give you their inputs. That's why sometimes you see between parentheses, it's empty. But in other cases, you do need the user to give you inputs, and then you can add variables between parentheses. And then below that, you want to provide the service of your function. In this case, I simply want to print a welcome message. That's why I use a print function, right? This is how you create your own function. Now you give this code to your user. So how can they use your function? This is how. They just type in the function name. It's just like in Excel. Microsoft, we don't know how Microsoft developed, but Microsoft tells us that if you want to use the total calculation, you must type in SUM. So we type in SUM. Now you create your own function, and then you tell your user that my function name is called my underscore function. So if they want to use your function, they must type in my underscore function parentheses. And when you create this function, you specify that I do not accept any user input. That's why they don't input anything, right? They only see the welcome message. As I said, when you create your own function, you can use any name, but they cannot violate the Python rule. For example, we must start a function name by a letter or an underscore, right? This is as same as the requirement for variables. You can only use letters, numbers, underscores. You cannot use special symbols. And they are case sensitive. Let's do some exercise. Oh, before we do exercise, sometimes you want the function to return values to the next function or to the following code, right? If you want to do that, you must use return keyword. Return a message, return a total, return anything. But as I said just now, there's nothing after return. No colon, no semicolon, just return the value you want to return. Very good. Uh, and also function in Python cannot be empty. So if you have an idea about a function, but you don't know how to develop the code yet, you use a pass. You cannot just create a def my function without giving pass. Yeah, you see nothing. You see nothing. This pass keyword just means that I'm thinking about the code, right? I'm developing it. Yeah. This is like a note. show with your colleagues, with your date function users. I'm currently working on it, right? But you see nothing, no results from a pass. What is a keyword to define a function? Def, right? Def. Create a function named my underscore function. Should I use lowercase up? Lower. And then, yes, parentheses. Execute the function named my function. You must add the underscore sign, right? Because this is how it's defined. It's just like when you use the Excel, when you want to calculate the total, you cannot use equals to total because Microsoft specified that that function should be SUM, right? So now if you develop a function, now you are creating something. Your user must follow you. That's a good feeling, don't you think? Right? You are not limited to other people. You can create your own function now. Okay, now let's talk about the user's input. As I said, sometimes the parentheses after function name is not empty. You can add variables into the parentheses. For example, in this case, I want the user give me a string value. And in my function, when I create the function, I want to use f-name, this variable, to represent the user's input. I'm not sure what name the user will give me, but I will use a variable to represent it, right? F-name. So when the user use my function, they will give me all kinds of names, right? The user's input sometimes is called parameters. Some people call them arguments. They refer to the same thing. They both refer to the user's input, the value given by the user. Okay. How many users' input can my function accept? No limitation. No limitation, but you need to remember some rules. For example, here, I simply create two variables. That means I want to accept two users' inputs. Later in this lecture, you will see sometimes I want to add a asterisk, a little star in front of the variable. That means I can accept unlimited number of unknown number of inputs, right? But here I only use variables. That means I have two variables. That means I can accept two users' inputs. Do you remember dictionary type data? We have a key value pairs, right? Key value pairs. You can specify the key value for each variable, for each input as well. For example, here, I'm telling my user that I want to create a key to the user's input. And the key is name. 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 And then I want to use an equal sign. So after the equal sign, I can accept any kind of value. Yes. So the user's input, the key of the user input is name. Any question? Any question? You see, this is another example. I want to accept two users' inputs, and I give each input A name, a key, a key. The first input will be the value of a animal key. Yes. The second input will be the value of the name key. Yes. Very good. I know this is something new to many classmates. If you have a question, please read this tutorial at home. Yeah. Not challenging. It's just new. So when you get familiar, when you read over, it will be better for you to understand, right? Okay, positional arguments. Sometimes you can just use positions to match the user's input. If you want to use positions to match the user's input, no matter what key you give to your function, the first value will be the first variable. The second value will be the second variable. Yes. Yeah. You can mix the positional arguments and the key pair value, value pair. You can do that like this one. This shows you an example, right? You can specify which value belong to which key. And if you don't specify the key value, then it will match the position. Yeah. Yeah. Very flexible. Python is very flexible. You can give any type of value as a user's input. For example, in this case, we create a list variable and then give this list to my function. You can also give a string value to your function, right? You can also give a numerical value. There's no limitation. So if I give a list to my function, what my function do is I'm going to list each element of this list variable. So I should be able to see apple, and then a new line banana, and then a new line cherry. Yes, let's take a look. You see, I'm able to see each element. Okay, okay, this is how we simulate the sum function given by similar to Excel, right? I'm able to get the user's input x, y, and then I'm going to return the total, the sum of x, y, right? Exactly what we did in Excel. But now you can manipulate the code by yourself because it's open source. Use the return keyword to return the total, right? Yeah. So this shows you another example. You give a list to a variable, and then you list each element by using the position of each element. Take a look, take a look at this example at home. Okay, I said we can use position of the user's input. We can also give key to the user's input. Sometimes we only want to use position to match the user's input. If you want to do so, after the variable that represents the user's input, you add a comma and then a forward slash. Then this function will only use position to match the user's input. Right. You are not required to do so, but if you want to do so, only use position to match the user's input. You can specify the arguments as positional argument only. You can add a comma sign and then forward slash. If you want to use a keyword only arguments, you can add a asterisk and then a comma sign. Then you must specify the keyword to the user's input. Notice that the positional only arguments ask you to add the comma and the forward slash at the end of the user's input. But if you want to specify keyword only argument, you must add an asterisk and a comma in front of the user's input. At the beginning, in front of the user's input. These are just the rules. There's nothing to talk about. You must follow these rules, right? You can use combine positional only and keyword only arguments. And then don't forget, if you want to specify which user's input as positional only, always list this user's input in front of a comma and a forward slash sign. That means A and B will be positional only arguments, and then C and D will be keyword only argument. Yes, yeah. So when you give value, you must type in C equals to 15, D equals to 20. Why? Because you add an asterisk and comma before C and D. That indicates C and D are keywords only arguments. Let's do some exercise. Which one will print hello? Option B, right? Yeah. Because when we define this variable, we didn't define it as like a keyword argument. So there's no need to type in param. Yeah, not necessary. No need. Inside a function with two parameters, print the first parameter, fname. Let the function return x parameter plus 5. What is it? Print, return. Yes, very good. X plus 5. Right? Very good. So now let's talk about unlimited number of arguments. Sometimes we don't know how many inputs the user will give us. For example, in Excel, sometimes we select 3 cells, other times we select 10, 100, multiple cells. We don't know the number of arguments, right? So we can specify the arguments as arguments, but in front of whatever argument name you have, add an asterisk. That will change the user's input to unknown number. It doesn't matter how many users inputs are. It doesn't matter. It will change accordingly. Yeah. If you want to give unknown number of keyword only arguments, you add 2 asterisks, 2 stars. Let's see some example. So in this case, we accept the user's input kids, but we add 1 star in front of kids. That means kids can have an unlimited number, unknown number of elements. Doesn't matter. For example, we added a star, and the user give us actually 3 inputs. Is this okay? Yes, because you already said kid, this variable represents unknown number of users' inputs. So the user can give you 1 input, two inputs, more than two inputs, they are acceptable, right? And in this case, we want to print the name of the the third, yeah, the third kid, right? The third. Why the third? Because kids two should be the third element. Yeah. We always start counting from zero. This is how we specify unknown number of user's inputs. And then we have a keyword. If you have an unknown number of keyword only arguments, you can add two stars. And then here you see I have two inputs, right? Can I change it to three? Like M name, middle name. Can I do that? Yes, because kids, before kids, I have two stars. Yeah. So I can add any number of users inputs with keywords. That's good. Very flexible, right? Okay, let's do some exercise. Keyword arguments are often called KW args. Yes. If you don't know the number of arguments that will be passed into your function, there is a prefix you can add in the function definition. Which prefix? A star. What about the keywords? Two stars, right? But here, just the keyword, just the arguments. So just one star. What is it? Two stars, right? Good, very good. Now we have completed all the Python fundamental training.